Aloha, welcome back. So, life can be really overwhelming, and this there are going to be some trigger warnings here. I'm going to be talking about suicidality and just the feeling of wanting to give up in general. I know it's kind of a heavy subject, but I've been just getting a lot of information coming through the last couple of days and feel like this is what I'm supposed to talk about, for better or for worse. So, here we go. Um, First of all, it's really common. I recently in the community on Maui, there was someone who's very involved in the community that took her life, and it's really shaken everyone. She was very beautiful. She modeled. She was very connected, like very spiritual, really involved in things, and a lot of people are really taken by surprise, which is understandable. And that's the thing. It's like we really never know who's feeling that inside. And so I just first of all want to say it's a lot of people, especially when this came up. A couple of friends reached out to me. I reached out to a couple of friends, just letting each other know, like, please call me, talk to me if you're in this situation. I love you. I want you in my life. You're important here. And in that, even discovering people I have been friends with for almost 20 years have these thoughts, and I didn't know that. So it is common, and I feel like there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm gonna kind of go through that. I'm gonna go through some of my personal experience with this, and of course I'm gonna leave you with some tips to kind of get through it when you're feeling these moments, even if it's not feeling suicidal, but it's just feeling overwhelmed and like you want to give up. I think there's a lot here for you. So thank you for being here. If you appreciate what's happening, give it a like, a subscribe, notification bell, share it, all those good things. It just helps that more people get these messages. So in my own experience, I have dealt with suicidality from a young age, probably since I was 10 or 11. Um, Especially in my teenage years. It's actually really common in the teenage years for multiple reasons. For one, life is really hard and overwhelming and confusing, but there's also this like need to initiate into adulthood. So teenagers actually like are feeling this because their child self is meant to die off, and they're meant to be reborn in this new identity as an adult. And a lot of people don't know that, and so they're not supported in that process. And one thing that I've learned from other people who deal with teenagers and stuff like that is that it can be really helpful to have a ceremony or some sort of write it out, or some sort of personal, whatever feels right, kind of ceremony to let that child die off and to become an adult. And of course, we all know we don't become an adult overnight, but it's an initiation, it's a transition into adulthood. So a lot of teenagers feel this need to in their lives because there is an internal need to end the child life. And of course, we're supposed to hang on to our, childlike wonder and all of those things, but it is an identity shift. And when our identity is shifting, it's important to let the old identity die away. So they feel this urge. That's part of it. But, it follows many of us for way longer than that and way past that. And I feel like there's a lot of reasons for that. For one, the world is hard. We are meant to be feeling beings. We are meant to feel through our emotions, but because of the way that society is designed, we instead like push them down and don't deal with them. So we have all of this festering, unfelt emotion inside that doesn't know where to go, and that can become really overwhelming. And we don't necessarily know how to deal with that when you haven't processed the emotions and been through your shadows. Then they're all there if you feel it all at once, right? So say, I'm just making up numbers, but say you've got like 1,500 shadows, 1,500 memories or things that are affecting you, bringing you down emotionally, like pains, whatever. I mean, this is really just a random number. But say that you have like 1,500 of those. Well, when you haven't processed those as they were coming along, you're feeling this like 1,500 things wanting to push out all the time. The good news is that you can still start processing those. And it does feel really overwhelming and scary, but it is entirely possible, and we're meant to do it. So when you're facing your shadows, you're facing one at a time, which is a lot less overwhelming than 1,500 at a time, right? So it's important for one to start feeling the feelings, to do your inner work, to do your shadow work, to work with a therapist, to work with, whoever you feel led to. If you don't know how to even start, I suggest, I fully believe asking you shall receive. So literally just check in with yourself, with your spirit team, whoever you refer to for spiritual guidance, your higher self, source, however you envision that, is to check in and just ask and be like, I want to start working through my shadows. I want to do this emotional work. Please show me my next step. And you will be shown. You have to listen. And when you see it, those intuitive nudges are usually pretty gentle. So the more you can tune in with yourself and the more you can stay embodied and connected to yourself, the easier you're going to be able to feel and see the signs. But you will be led to your next right step, whatever that is for you. But even that, I've done a lot of shadow work, emotional work, therapy, trauma work, all of that stuff. And it still comes up for me sometime. I can tell you consistently from about the age of 16 to my late 30s, when I started trauma therapy, it was a regular for me. Anytime anything was going poorly, that was my default, was ending my life. And even to the point to, about a decade ago, I was literally sitting in my mom's house and I was going through what I was going to do, like who would take care of my dog, how to do it, that was the closest I feel like I've ever been. I did have some attempts when I was a teenager that I feel like were more cries for help, but that's the closest I've been to like taking action on those thoughts. I just call them the dark thoughts. The dark thoughts come in, the scary thoughts are the dark thoughts. And I was bawling. I remember sobbing and just feeling it so deeply. And the thing that stopped me was I couldn't work out what to do with my dog, and I was so concerned that he wouldn't be cared for where we were at and who was around. And he's from Maui. We were not on Maui, and I wanted him to be in his community with his people and the beach and Yale Valley and all the things that he loves. And I knew that he would just be tied up on a chain or put in a fence or taken to the pound or whatever if I left him in that moment. So I know that seems kind of minor, but for me it was pretty major. And actually when I got Zappa, it was because I was having a lot. I was in a marriage that was very painful. It was not going well. And I just wanted, like, there's a lot of mountains here on Maui, and I was living up country, and there was this one area in Hali'imaile where every time I would go through, it was like a cliff, and I just wanted to drive off the cliff. And so I got Zappa because I had to. I knew that if I had him with me, that I wouldn't do that, and I wouldn't harm him, but I didn't trust myself not to harm myself. So I did get Zappa, and he was with me for 14 years. Saved my life on many, many occasions. And when he finally passed, that was something that really rocked me, was like, wow, this little dude has kept me alive. And fortunately now I have tools and resources to be able to process through my pain and see to the other side of it. But it left me feeling kind of alone. And so there were some times even over the past year, which I didn't have the suicidal thoughts for a few years. Once I started therapy and started dealing with the trauma work and everything, it was such a relief, actually. I hadn't realized how much it was always there. But once I started feeling relief from it, it was noticeable. It was like, oh, I haven't had those thoughts in a while. That's pretty cool. Or now when something rocks my world or it seems hopeless, I don't automatically default to that, which was huge progress for me. And then I just, like, last year was the last 2 years were very, very transformational. I mean, the last decade, but several years, pandemic, all of it. But, after Zappa died and the fires on Maui and dealing with a lot of financial issues as a result of that, it started coming back. And I felt really good about my progress because I now have more tools to be able to get myself out of that place. And I know how to not let it take me down, because it will. When we start giving into those thoughts, it will just go down with them. And I feel like I have enough emotional awareness now that I've been able to kind of pull myself out of it, even when it felt dark. And even when I did contemplate the thoughts, they didn't last as long. And I was able to reach for resources. I'll get into those resources in a little bit because I feel it's really important to have them. But even, so I hadn't had these thoughts in at least a few months, and I felt really good about it. And then I had like a really low day a couple months ago. A really low day. I was feeling betrayed by some friends, and dealing with some other, kind of rejection stuff, and just also like in a hormonal state, which is something I'm going to talk about. And it was dark. Like, that was a heavy day. I had a hard time getting through the day without tears. I mean, I actually didn't get through the day without tears, but I was like holding back tears all day. I was feeling so low, but I knew that it would pass. And I was able to tell myself that this will pass. This is only a moment. For, your hormones. I was about to start my period. Your hormones are going crazy. There's all this stuff happening. Your dopamine has dropped really, really low. You know what to do about this. You know that you don't want to end your life. You know that you love your life. Let's start finding that dopamine and that serotonin boost that we need to get through this. So that's what I did. And it was very helpful. By the end of the day, I was feeling much relief and I was feeling okay. So it was only a few hours this time. And this was it was heavier than I had felt it in a while, but it was only for a few hours, which to me shows so much progress and growth and success in the tools that I now have to combat these thoughts that do come. But, getting back to why it happens, I mean, we're exposed to so much information and so much pain in the world that we were not previously exposed to before internet and social media and all of this international connections. And now we see, like, there were genocides and things happening before, but now we see it firsthand, and we get so inundated with so much headlines and hopelessness and all of the bad things that are happening in the world. And, the good things don't sell newspapers, unfortunately, which I kind of feel like they would. Because if you think about all those like uplifting Instagram channels and YouTube channels where people are like doing acts of kindness and animals are cute, and like the dodo where they're like rescuing animals, people love that stuff. So maybe they could sell a good newspaper, but they get a lot of reaction out of anger and sadness and fear. Fear is used to keep us buying, to keep us in the capitalistic loop, right? So we're exposed to all this information and there's a helpless feeling about it. Like, so many of us are hurting about what's happening in the Middle East and what's happening in Congo and in Sudan and feel helpless about it. But the thing is like, in our evolution, this is all very new and we're not equipped to deal with this much information all at once. Like, emotionally, we're not equipped. So it is overwhelming. We see things happening in the country that we have no control over that are very scary and overwhelming. The economic situation and the, massive transfer of wealth into these oligarchs. And there is a lot that would say this is hopeless and it's only going to get worse. And who knows what's going to happen in the future. But I will say that there's also a lot of good that's happening, and people are waking up and people are shifting and people are starting to see. And unfortunately, the breakdown comes before the breakthrough. A lot of times we have to hit rock bottom before we bounce up. Unfortunately, there's something powerful about that rock bottom energy. And I'm not saying you have to hit rock bottom to come up. You get to make the choice of what that rock bottom is and how low you're going to go. But sometimes we have to hit a rock bottom in order to go back up, which I feel is a lot of what's happening. But there is a huge energy shift happening. Even from generation to generation, we're becoming more compassionate, more empathetic, more connected to each other, more sensitive to each other's feelings. This like woke snowflake thing. I don't know what's so wrong about being awake or what's so wrong about being sensitive. We're meant to be sensitive. So, I do feel like the up and coming generation, every generation is, I'm technically a millennial. I'm like the first year of the millennials. But each generation is more compassionate and more aware and more in touch than the one before it. So it's our natural evolution to get better. So even when it feels like everything's getting worse, in the bigger picture, things are getting better. Now in your life, that is up, that's up to you. Like, you can't necessarily help all the things that are coming at you, but you can help how you respond to them and how you regulate yourself and keep yourself focused on what's going to benefit you. But when you're in these moments, that's all for after. When you're in this moment of desperation and really feeling heavy and down and under the blanket, as I like to call it, I don't like to, but I call it. Like when you're, because that's how you feel. You just want to get under a blanket and hide, or in a closet, or whatever works for you. But when you're feeling that under the blanket feeling, um, it's important to remember that it's just a moment. To remember that you don't know what tomorrow holds, but if you end it, you never will. And we're meant to feel the full spectrum of emotions. We're meant to feel the sadness and the anger. It all has information for us. So rejecting our difficult feelings only amplifies this feeling of hopelessness. And hang in there, because you never know what's going to happen. And I will say, just a couple of months ago, I was literally contemplating into my life. And by the end of the day, I was feeling better. And then just like yesterday, in the past week in general, but like yesterday, I was in complete awe. I was in art classroom, the one next to my ceramics class, and there were some guests visiting the island. It's a couple, and they're public artists. It was amazing. It was enlightening. It was enriching, the whole experience of listening to them talk and seeing their work and their passion, and them together as a couple, like couples goal. They were so cute. But I was just sitting in that room with the beat up old art room with the beat up old tables and all of the people sitting there with their drawing pads and such, and realizing that my life is now in a space where I'm doing everything that I've ever wanted to do. I'm here using my intuitive voice, letting source channel through me. I am using my wisdom and that I have earned in this life, and being able to share it with the world, making an impact. That's really, really important to me. I'm also in an acting class, which is one of my favorite passions. I'm in a drawing class, not my favorite passion, but something that I know that I'll enjoy. I enjoy any kind of art. I'm in a watercolor class, and I'm in ceramics. Like literally my whole life since I was a kid, all I wanted to do was art. So art and public speaking. So I'm really living into that dream. And I had this overwhelming moment of just like, I was holding back tears in this room full of people, because I just felt so much awe and gratitude of my life, and realizing that just 2 months ago, I wanted to end my life. And here I am, one of my favorite moments. So you don't know how close you are to your next favorite moment. You don't know what is in store for your life. All you know is right now it feels shitty, and you want to get out of this shitty feeling. So this is what you do. You get out of the shitty feeling. It is not you. It is not you. A lot of times there's entities involved, which I don't see them as demons, but more of like consciousness, like energy, concentrated energy. But there could be entities involved, which is very likely, that are affecting you. In which case there's ways to clear that, which, you can, using sage, like Native American practices, I suggest looking into that or Native indigenous practices using sage. One thing I can tell you is that if you're menstruating, you're not meant to touch those implements, because our body is so powerful and full of energy that it'll actually withdraw the energy from the implements. So if you're on your period, there are other ways, but that's when you don't want to be touching your sweetgrass or your Palo Santo or your sage. You want to let them maintain their power, because you are already so powerful in that moment. But you can use crystals, you can use stones to clear. Magnets are excellent. Like take it over your head, over your crown chakra, around your heart. There are ways to clear, which I can make another video about it another time, but you can also look on the internet. There's so much information, but there are ways to clear these entities, to clear them from your space, to recognize what they are, or whatever. So if that's something that rings true to you, I suggest that, I recommend that you look further into that. But it could also not be just one thing. Another way to get yourself out of it, out of the loop, is to go outside, to breathe some fresh air, to be in nature. Watching and looking at nature, communicating with nature is so powerful, because civilizations have ended. The world has changed. We've gone through the ice age, so many things, and yet, and when it seems like everything's falling apart, like trees are still here, the birds are still chirping, the flowers are still blooming, the bees are still pollinating, what's left of them. The world is still going on, and it's not giving up, because there's always renewal. There's always cycles in life, in all of life, not just our human lives. And it's important for one to connect with nature, to remember that, to take example from nature, but also just hearing birds chirping, because of our evolution, it calms our nervous system and tells our nervous system that we're safe. Because when there were threats around, the birds would get quiet, right? But if there's no like threat around, the birds are chirping. So that lets our bodies know it's safe to relax. Just breathing the fresh air. You know, our trees do communicate with us, and they're always there. All the plants, the rocks, everything has a consciousness and is there ready to commune with us, and is already, you know, there's scientific evidence that just being with a tree will help calm your nervous system and will help you feel better. But literally, I made a comedy video. You can go back down to the bottom of my page. It's Peace Muffin. Is this character I like to do, but she did a video about take it to a tree. But there's truth to it. You know, you can literally take it to a tree, go talk to a tree about your problems, and it will talk back to you. You may not understand the language. Of course, after this practice, you actually do start hearing that, like translating it into the English language or whatever language you speak so that you can understand what it's saying. But it's speaking to your soul, to your subconscious. There's communication there. So just go be in nature. Reach out to a friend. It is very likely that there are people in your circle that have felt the exact same way. Knowing that you're not alone in it is so powerful. Don't reach out to the friend that bypasses and that's just going to tell you, oh, everything's going to be okay, cheer up, you know, all of that. Reach out to someone who you know has some depth, who has dealt with sadness and made it through it. Or reach out to someone who is open and kind and knows how to feel the pain and face the things with you, that will sit with you, that will hold space for you. If it's going to feel better, go do something fun. Like go dancing, even dancing in your house, dancing. I know I say this all the time, but because it's so true. Go dance somewhere in public, go dance at home, go dance anywhere you feel like dancing. Dancing automatically boosts those neuroendocrine chemicals that make us feel better. If I know that a lot of times, like when I'm in the depths of sadness, I cannot play, I cannot dance, I can't do something that's going to be happy. That is not authentic to how I'm feeling in that moment. So if that's how you're feeling, you can literally like take a big bowl of water and fill it full of ice and do some, like dip your face in it. If you can do a whole ice bath, heck yeah. But even just like filling a bowl of ice water and like dipping your face in it for a few seconds at a time will start to change the endorphins in your body and get those happy chemicals flowing. Any kind of movement or exercise is going to get it's going to boost your serotonin. Of course, sunlight is going to boost your serotonin. So you got to know that you're working with multiple neuroendocrine chemicals, but your main ones that you want to focus on are boosting your serotonin and your dopamine. So in the moment when you're really feeling that, just stick your face in a bucket of ice water. Promise you, it will help. Take a cold shower. Do something different than ruminating on the thoughts. Get yourself out of that thought loop. You've got to. The longer you stay in that thought loop, the deeper it's going to take you down into this hole. So you really just got to pull yourself out and just know that, again, you never know. Your story is not finished and you never know what's around the corner. You never know. What if you gave up and took your life and the best thing that was ever about to happen to you was just like a day away, a week away, and you didn't see it because you're in this dark space under the blanket, but it was there trying to come to you. But then you left too early. You know, you're about to meet a person who would change your life. You're about to find an opportunity, or an opportunity was going to find you that would change your life, or just some special moment that you don't even know is happening. Somebody you love might be having a child that's going to come in and change your life. There's so many ways that could show up, but you don't know what tomorrow brings, and you won't unless you stick around for it. But the ice water thing is really helpful. Just moving, just shaking your body, literally, like jumping up and down, shaking your hands, shaking your hips. Anything that starts moving the energy. That's one thing you got to do, is move the energy. I do have this energy practice that I channeled. I don't feel now is the time to go into it, but I'm going to be posting it soon. But there are ways to alchemize this energy, but you can literally envision whatever energy is around you, whether it's an entity or just bad memories that are trapped in your body, something trapped in your nervous system, whatever it is around you, like just give it a color. Like, tune into yourself and what color are you? And you will see a color. And work with that. Get some kind of movement. Do something to move it out of your body. Any of these tools that I'm giving you right now, and watch that color change. And you can see the color change to a more beautiful color. And that lets you know that you're alchemizing that pain. You're alchemizing that moment, which is so powerful. Once you learn how to start alchemizing situations and your energy, it will change everything. And that's the thing. There's so much on the brink for you. Like, this message found you on purpose, because there are very big things in store for you that you are meant to be doing. And it's not going to happen if you leave this world early. And, we pick up where we left off in life. You're not going to be reincarnated back into the exact same life, but you will be reincarnated to a life that picks up where you left off. So there is no escaping this shadow work. There is no escaping this generational work that you have to do. You may escape it in this life, but it will be waiting on you, for you in the next one, hun. So you can't escape doing this work. And escaping this life is not the answer. And I know that sometimes it feels like the only option and the only answer, but it really isn't. There's so much more in store for you, and that's worth sticking around for. And I guarantee you that there are people who want you around, even if you don't realize it. I've had people reach out to me that I knew, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, and leave messages on Facebook and stuff and be like, you always inspired me. I always felt so like in awe of you or whatever. And I had no idea. A couple of these people, I didn't even think that they liked me. So, a lot of times people are admiring us from a distance and we don't even know it. Or they just really feel a strong affection for us and we don't even know it. And so by literally opening ourselves up and doing this work to be able to connect with others in a more intimate and authentic way, it will show you that you are needed and you are valued. You came to this earth with your own set of gifts and skills and talents and wisdom and experience, and that was on purpose. There is only one of you. You were made on purpose. Your soul chose the body that you're in. It chose the parents that you were born to. It chose the circumstances that have shaped your life and your personality, and there's a reason for all of it, because there is something that you have that is meant to be shared with the world, and only you have it. So not only are you going to be missing out on what's next in life for you, but the whole world is going to be missing out on you. And that may not feel like a big deal to you right now when things are feeling so dark, but I promise you, it's a big deal. You are here on purpose. You are here exactly as you are, in exactly the situation that you're in, on purpose. And it's up to you what you do with it next. And so that brings me into my another point, which is living authentically. This is my shtick for a reason. Living authentically has been so profound and life-changing for me in so many ways. There is no turning back. And that's why I know at this point I would not in my life, no matter how I felt, because I actually love my life and I love myself. And even though the feelings feel dark, I want to live this life. It keeps surprising me, and it keeps getting better and better. And so it's not linear. Excuse me, it's not linear. It goes down and then goes up, it goes down and goes up and goes down and goes up, but every time it's going up higher and higher. So, and it's not going down as low as it was. So I know that even though I may be in a low in that moment, that the high is next, that it's coming. And once we learn to like alchemize this energy and ride with this ebb and flow, then it just gets a lot easier to manage. And living authentically, getting in touch with your authentic self and shining your light, letting your authentic self be seen and appreciated and enjoyed is the way out. It's the way to understanding why you're here and to enjoying your existence here, not just momentarily, but to just enjoying your existence, even seeing beauty in the pain and seeing beauty in the past and seeing beauty in all of it, and understanding that it's all part of your story for a reason, and that it's all helped you to develop the skills that you need, the wisdom that you need to fulfill this purpose that your soul chose to have in this life. And only you can do that for yourself. Only you can take the steps to start living authentically. But if you're in an emergent situation, and again, like I said, this doesn't just refer to suicidality. If you're just feeling hopeless in general in life, like, you've got to take the next step. So I've given you like some emergency tools that you can deal with, but then then it's time to start like building on that and start creating this authentic life so that you can really enjoy it. And, you know, there are ways to do that by incorporating play, really focusing on joy and rest and speaking your authentic truth. I talk about it so much on this channel and in my podcast, Leaving the Church to Find God. It is all about authentic living and deconstructing indoctrination and deconstructing all of the lies that we've been fed about ourselves and about the world so that we can live or let our true light shine and let our true selves like live in this world happy and free and expanding the way that we're meant to, co-creating with the energy that creates worlds. That is literally what we get to do as humans. It's so special that we get to taste and see and smell and hear and touch and feel and sense. Like we get all of this human experience, which can be painful, but when you start living authentically, like I said, you start appreciating the pain in a way. For one, it gives you contrast, but also there's always an opportunity to alchemize it into something bigger and better than you could have imagined. And so it's just part of the human experience. And when we accept that and stop feeling like there's something going wrong because things are happening in a certain way, and start accepting that everything's going and we get to choose how we respond to it, and taking full responsibility for our feelings, for our shadows, for ourselves, it is the most empowering thing you can do with your life. And the more you build that power, that inner power, the less this is going to plague you. And then those moments go from months to weeks to days to hours, and by the end of the day you're okay again. I promise you, as someone who has fully been through it. Like I said, this started when I was about 10 or 11 years old. I am 43, about to be 44 years old. I know about these feelings. I know about this. You wouldn't even recognize me from the person that I was, all the masks that I was wearing, and who I am now as my authentic self. And it just gets better and better. And I just enjoy life more and more, even when it sucks. So, I will leave you with that. I will also create a meditation as I do, and link it down below. So if you want to transition and do a mindfulness practice to kind of get yourself, if you're feeling really low and desperate and in a space of feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what's next, I recommend do the meditation. It'll help, the guided practice. And thank you for being here. And I'll keep showing up if you do, okay? I love you. Aloha.